Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Wargame. Today it's Wargame Vanilla. No mods, no 1991, no Ashen Shadows, nada. Just the vanilla base. It's a quick game, as you might imagine. It's 14 minutes long, and that means that something interesting is going to happen. Or that a whole bunch of people are going to quit out early. This is pretty much one of two ways that this thing is going to go down. Now when I previewed this replay, I got a flashback to Command & Conquer Generals. From the General Kwai, from the tank group. And he had these taunts, these sayings. And one of those was, "Are you protecting your flanks, General? Why don't we have a look?" And that's when he rolled into your base with a whole bunch of tanks. Now today it's not going to be tanks, but the guy that I'm following here, and according to Google Translate that is translated as the Great Tenshi, I believe. He's going to be rushing around, and he's going to be using not so much tanks, but motorized vehicles. Well, with the exception of the BMP-2s, that is. He's going to try and get around the harbor. This is an interesting area to operate in, and if anything can get here fast enough, it would be motorized vehicles. Mechanized are going to be lagging behind, but only slightly. And the mechanized vehicles are usually the ones that are carrying, well, at least that is depending, of course, on your deck. They're going to be carrying slightly different infantry. The more dangerous units are currently in the X-81 185 KTs, also because these guys come with their Bushmasters. Now, as for a command, I believe that's the Star 266. The way that this deck is set up and the position that he hopes to take, I would have loved to see this guy not so much using... Oh, never mind. There it is. Yeah, it is the Star 266. I would have loved to see him using a command helicopter. Or rather, a helicopter with command infantry inside. He also has a Super Puma over here, and he seems to have, well, forgotten it, I guess. But it is now taking off, and it is now moving towards the enemy. At this point, the XA-185 and the 180s are already at the harbor. And these roads, they do span across the harbor. Some of them come dangerously close to the town, which would get you spotted. If you were to take that road. That was a bit of a derp moment there. Nice try. He's not going directly through that area. He's not going directly over the road. He's just cutting through the containers. Now he has the XA-180s over there, and the 185 is just, well, sort of derping its way around the harbor, passing through containers, phasing through cranes. We don't care about these things. Unfortunately, the BMP-2s, sorry, no, the XA-185 KTs with the Yekeri got a little pinned down in the middle of town. Not really where you would hope they would go. And then getting knocked on the head with an airstrike doesn't exactly help. The Hera 2, this guy over here, has the right idea. He's already rushing over to the enemy area. And I think he was able to take down a truck that was transporting German command infantry, but was not able to take down the command infantry itself. Here comes the Super Puma. Super Puma has to try and land quickly, but an Eagle is making life very difficult, knocking it down to 1 hit point. And then finally a Twin Huey, of all things, takes it down. Twin Huey now under fire from the XA-185 KT itself. And there we go. That's the first... Yeah, that's the first kill for Great Tenshi. Now he's rushing into position with 2 XA-180s. Unfortunately only armed with machine guns. This thing deals the greater blow at greater range. He has to take these buildings because a couple of Korean units are on the way here. Kyoroku WAPCs with grenade launchers and elite infantry. Panzer Yekeri, not taken prisoners today, wipe out both of the grenade launcher vehicles, leaving the weaker, or at least less of a threat, Nanasan Shiki alive. And that is not going to be for long, because there goes one, and there goes the other. And that gets the Kutai 90 caught out in the open. But we have a bit of a problem as a Harrier GR7 comes in and wipes out a whole bunch of the Panzer Yekeri. So now it is down to the Panzer Yekeri and the XA-180, but that's not all there is. Because To Oni-chan has brought in a Ijang U-3. And that is a very welcome friend to have right out on the water. They have a range of 4.3 kilometers, and with that they can very effectively provide fire support, especially down this narrow, let's say, channel slash river. I'm not exactly sure how you want to call that thing. But they are definitely able to provide quite a lot of support. XA-185 KT knocking down a 120.6 CV, I think. They've also found the other command infantry, which is now trying to run. Unfortunately for the 185, it was not quite able to catch those guys while they were making their escape. Yeah, there they go. Sissy took them out, and a vehicle too. A 30-point vehicle. Now there is more incoming, but that's the last units which are going to spawn here for a while. And the Sissy are trying to fight for their lives, wiping out more vehicles, but there are some infantry inside. Before recon infantry, they're not really doing much spotting. Oh, damn it, it's sappers. Yeah, that could very well be the end of the Sissy there. On the other hand, the damage has been done. The area has been neutralized, and this is exactly why I mentioned at the start of the battle that I would have loved to see this guy using a command infantry in a helicopter. He does have a command infantry. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a helicopter anymore. So we're going to have to wait until an actual command unit either flies in or rolls in. It's going to take a while before that actually happens. Still, in the first 5 minutes of the game, he's been able to do 480 points. A hap tip to the guy using the Jiangyu 3, which is now in a position to block off any further spawns, but then again, the spawns got neutralized. So the Jiangyu 3, I'd say, would be better utilized over here, where it can counter anything that might come down this road, and potentially shoot down enemy aircraft. Although the range on the Jiangyu is not fantastic against planes. Now, with their spawn zone for Fedor neutralized, and with losing units in Dmitry, Blue is really not very confident. And you can see more and more Blue 4 players are already losing this, their will to fight, and just cutting out of the battle. In the middle of the town, we have the Navy SEALs and the Formosa. It's grenade launcher versus grenade launcher, but it's also grenade launcher versus napalm. And that's something that the napalm, in this case, wins. Although there is not a lot of Lijian left. And I suppose that the Harrier has something to say about that, but missed. Although narrowly. Deus Volt is asking for help. He wants the Jiangyu to reposition, but then, at least with the attack markers, he's not communicating where he wants them to go. Now, in the meanwhile, there is a command unit coming in. And M1107 is moving through the harbor, sneaking its way through the buildings, in order to get to that new Fedor position. Hopefully it won't encounter any stray Blue 4 units along the way. Jesus. I never knew that the vehicle models over there were that bad. I mean, I know that some things you can clip through, but I didn't know it was quite that bad. Still, there is a little bit of cover overhead from a Gamma 2. Unfortunately, I think the recon bird just got shot down, but command unit is almost in position. He's keeping it close to the Jiangyu, so anything that happens to try and attack this group, or this area, is going to get shot at by the Jiangyu 3. Tomcat got a little too close and got almost downed. That's the danger that the Jiangyu poses, and that's why I was hoping that he would put it over here. There's another kill. Not sure exactly who got the kill for that, but I suppose having two MiG-31s up there is not helpful for Blue 4's air dominance. Another air superior fighter gets spawned in. What are they all hoping to do with these? If Blue has this much in the sense of air dominance, then it's unsurprising that they have so little ground forces. I think 2, potentially 3 players decided to go airborne. Or spawn in jets, that is, not necessarily going airborne. And that is now biting them in the ass, because they now no longer have enough forces. Red 4 has scored 2,235 points. Blue 4 has scored 1,015. This is a landslide of a game. Now, you might be wondering, why did I show you? Because this route through the harbor is not very often utilized. You do see helicopters fly around every now and then, but this route through the harbor is, let's say, the road less taken, literally and figuratively. That makes it exploitable. So if you're playing on this map, make sure that you try and cover this area as quickly as possible. If you're coming in from this side, you have a greater distance to travel through that harbor. If you're coming in from Gregory, I think you can relatively quickly capture this building, and maybe one of these, And it doesn't need to be much. If it's just one unit of riflemen, for example, which you bring there in a Humvee or something similar, then you know that you're going to get there in time and you have a sort of picket line. Vice versa is, I'd say, less likely to happen. Although I haven't really tested it yet. If you want to drive from Gregory over here, then around here, then you have this whole open area where you're very much exposed. Red 4 can relatively quickly, I think faster than Blue 4, get a unit to any of these buildings. And even if they don't get a unit to these buildings, once you get to this phase, which is another relatively open area, you're about to get detected. And that's, of course, is not even counting the possibility of encountering a ship on your way there. That is, depending on how quick the ship spawns in. Anyway, cover your flanks. And if the enemy is not covering their flanks, then you can have stuff like this happen. With the Panzerjäger rushing in, XA-180s, XA-185s, all sorts of fast motorized stuff rushing in. Ideally, you would also bring, of course, a buddy. Somebody with a helicopter group would be very helpful. If only to just support and make sure that the enemy is not going to be capturing the sector or to harass. And if you then can also muster somebody who sails in with a Jiangyu 3 and neutralizes anything that does spawn in, well, then you pretty much have Fedor in the bag. This game is pretty much done. We got VDV killing off a command infantry. There's another XA-185 KTs from Great Tenchi pushing in. Panzerjäger are rushing towards the base, and it's pretty much done in 10 minutes. Which is really quick for a 10v10 tactical. Sometimes you have matches like these, but in my experience it is not very common. It's really quite rare. It's just wrapping up the CVs now. And that is, of course, going to grant him quite a lot of points. So, Blue 4 killed only 1,460. Lost 5,015. Red 4 killed 4942, so Blue 4 lost potentially a bit more due to napalm, and lost 1460. The guy who we followed, the Great Tenchi, 1,023 points and 370 losses. That's a very, very good kill-death ratio. Now, I was initially planning on leaving the fight here, on ending with that part, but I'm going to load up the replay again, because I'm really quite curious to see what Blue 4 had. Or rather, what they didn't have. Where are all their units? 2 times Tomcat, okay. Of course, I cannot see what is going on in chat. So I can only deduce based on what I see on screen. Somebody's going with the riverboats. That is if you have your spawn long enough in Foxtrot. We have Pronk going in, Jupiters. These are all elites, so it's probably the Navy SEALs that we've seen previous. Saxons, though? Not quite sure what's going to come out of that. Cobra. Interesting to see that it's not spawned over a building. Couple of units here. See, it doesn't look that bad. I was kind of worried that somebody was going to go full arty, or that we're going to have 2 or 3 players going airborne and 2 or 3 players going arty. And then you have really very little to cover the front line. So the Tomcats try to rush in. Engage something over there, a MiG-31. There. Nobody went Foxtrot. Unless, actually this LAV might turn there, because this is Homie Popper, or Homie Popper. He was supposed to go with the riverboats, so I think it's his LAV-C2 that's rushing in. I think it's an interesting strategy to use those riverboats. The problem that I have with it is that they're not very efficient beyond defending this part of the river, or potentially supporting over here. But once you're here, you're very, very close to the buildings. And that makes it really quite easy for enemy infantry to just start popping your boats with AT weapons. An Eagle doing gun runs. Alright then. That's quite unusual. So red captures this. There you go. Blue has sent nothing up this road, which is something that you normally see. At least a couple of vehicles which are going up the road and capturing these buildings. We got Pathfinders. Good infantry, but I'm not sure how well they're going to hold themselves against Red 4 infantry. Pioneers, Navy SEALs, Stingers. This is not a bad combination. Pathfinders can deal with some of the vehicles. Although you will find that the M72 Law is meh. It'll kill APCs, it'll kill IFVs, but it won't do terrible amounts of damage. We got Jäger. Ah, that's what came out of the Jupiters. Jäger 90 and Navy SEALs at the front line. And then somebody stopped with Gurkhas in the back of the line. That's a really curious action. If the enemy, or if your front line is here, then why are the Gurkhas all the way back there? So I would want the Gurkhas to start pushing forward like 2 days ago. Either load them up in the transports or get them moving. Because against an onslaught of Red 4 units, these guys are going to hold out for a bit. But you can pretty much place bets on the fact that there's going to be either Spetsnaz or Legion or both. That's just the way that these battles are fought. And indeed there is Spetsnaz. The Jäger are trying to keep those guys at range. But this won't be enough. This will never be enough. Here are the Q... What the fuck are these guys doing? These were spawned in to go here. The Kyoroku WAPCs. And now they're being withdrawn. That allowed Great Tenshi to push in. See, now they're moving again. No, hold on. That was the vehicle. That was the Chigata that was right next to it. See, now they're moving up. It's like they were waiting for the Nanasan Shikis. Maybe because they saw a helicopter or something. And now they get lit up by the Panzeri. There goes one transport. The Kutai 90 do survive, but immediately get panicked. Second rocket flies out, kills off the second vehicle. Yeah, and there we go. Seconds from disaster. Not pushing up far enough. Having a lot of infantry over here, which are only now starting to push up. It's way too late. If you allow the enemy to phasedly, or in phases, take you down, so like they're doing with here with the Pioneers, and then the Navy SEALs, and then more Navy SEALs, and then the Jäger, then your Gurkhas are really not going to excel. You need to be pushing all together. And if you don't do that, then this is kind of going to be the result. Anyway, I was just curious how Blue 4 had their forces set up. A couple of mistakes, and as with Wargame happens quite often, mistakes can compound pretty damn quick. So, hope you enjoyed that battle. Confirm that you have a flank defense. Either do so by defense markers or by chat. Make sure you have something in a building over here. If you do not, then Red 4 might come checking out how strong your flanks exactly are. And if they find them lacking, you might find that your flank no longer exists, because it's then being taken over by Red 4. Hope you enjoyed the fight. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section, and I will see you guys soon for more videos.